enriching. It's indeed empowering. Dua Kumail is enlightening for the soul. Dua Kumail needs to be understood. Dua Kumail must not be the oscillation of the tongue. Dua Kumail must be the pumping of the heart, which is the soul. Dua Kumail invites us to take a journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How many times when I recite Dua Kumail on a night like this, I recite Allahumma ghfir li al-dhunub allati tahbisu ad-du'a. Ya Allah, forgive the sins that stop the dua from being answered by you. I often pondered and pressed the pause button in my life and thought, which sins stop the dua from being answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Amir al-Mu'mineen is teaching Kumail ibn Ziyad radhiyallahu ta'ala alayhi. Supplicate to Allah, say, Ya Allah, forgive me those sins. But perhaps in my life, I am committing those sins the very same day, and at night I'm saying, Ya Allah, forgive me those sins. Allah will come to me and say, I will forgive, I am Arhamur Rahimeen. But are you taking care not to commit those sins? Are you making those commitments or not? Somebody asked the question, what are the sins that Amir al-Mu'mineen talking about here? Which sins, according to riwayat, stop the dua from reaching Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala? Yes? The dua from being answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is a better expression. We have narrations from the Ahl al-Bayt. The recognition is Imam Ja'far ibn Muhammad al-Sadiq, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. And the fourth holy Imam, both have come forward and mentioned 6 sins. 6 gunahs, so to speak, dhunub, that unfortunately, if human beings commit them on a regular basis, they act as an impediment for the dua to be answered by Allah. You and I would love to know which these sins are, yes? Very briefly, number 1, the 6th holy Imam says, what? Su'un niyyah, when you have bad intention. Sometimes when people deal with others, or when they think of others, they think the worst. Yes. The riwayat tell us, when you think of other human beings, give 70 excuses. Sometimes not even half an excuse is given by people. When they hear something, or they receive something on WhatsApp, or see something on Instagram, or see a post on Facebook on this modern era of what? Of technology and social media, immediately there is the worst of intention that goes by. Yes. The 2nd holy Imam, Imam Hassan al-Mujtaba, salawatullahi wa salamu alayhi. With a few of his Sahaba walking, and they saw a pig that has died on the way. So some of his companions said, what a bad stench coming from him, from this pig. Some said, how awful the pig looks. Imam al-Mujtaba said, how beautiful is his white teeth. They said to him, Ya Ibn Rasulullah, why are you looking at that which is what? Good in this animal that is rotting. He says, I am embarrassed before Allah to think badly even of a pig that has died. I don't want to think badly of that, yes. Therefore the first sin is what? When I think badly of people, su'un niyyah, khubthus sarira. Khubthus sarira is what? Not only is my intention bad, but I am someone who is determined to cause bad from having what? Thoughts in my mind which are evil. Thoughts in my mind which, God forbid, causes what? Causes wrongdoings to occur. Yes. I am constantly thinking of hurting others, God forbid. Constantly thinking of rejecting this. Number 3 is what? To delay salah from its time. تأخير الصلاة من وقتها, according to the riwayat of Ahl al-Bayt, would ensure that the dua is not necessarily answered by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Number 4, النفاق بين الإخوان, to create hypocrisy, dissension, hatred, animosity between people. There are people today who have nothing better to do and to go to say to someone, someone said this about you, someone mentioned this about you. Or perhaps in a conversation, they're sitting in a gathering, yes, they're sitting in a place and they talk ill of others. They create fitna, they create corruption, hatred in society. They are not advocates of brotherhood, they are advocates of disunity. And therefore you recognize that their dua, Allah says, I will not answer. Number 4. Number 5 is not to give sadaqah. Staying away from charity and giving good deeds is considered what? Is considered an act which unfortunately causes what? Causes the dua not to be answered. And number 6, the final one in the narration of the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, is when people speak vile language and words. When they speak badly, this vile words that they use, unfortunately, swearing, for example, certain expressions, when the tongue becomes polluted, yes, we are told that tongue which is polluted cannot come forward all of a sudden and ask Allah for hajat or fulfillment of the wishes. There is too much stain in it. There is too much uncleanliness in the same tongue. Therefore, the tongue that speaks ill, yes, and uses words and expressions that do not befit a believer is not a tongue that Allah Ta'ala responds to in dua.